The galaxy was once a vibrant tapestry of thousands of civilizations, woven from threads of light and life. Now, it is merely a desolate landscape engulfed in darkness. Humanity's golden age, where starships glided through nebulae like colossal whales in a cosmic ocean, building flourishing colonies on distant planets, has ended. In its place is a dark era, an all-consuming night brought forth by the Nightfall Empire. The Nightfall Empire is not a new threat, it is an entity that has existed for millennia, silently expanding from the darkest corners of the galaxy. It is not a loose alliance of individual races, but a centralized power structure, governed by the enigmatic Obscura Council. No one truly knows how many races they have assimilated, how many civilizations they have crushed and erased from history. Only one thing is clear: their ambition is to consume the entire galaxy, turning all life into a part of eternal darkness. The Nightfall Empire's military is the Abyssal Legion, a brutal war machine equipped with incredibly advanced technology and overwhelming numbers. Their warships, black as the deepest night, are never alone. Each battleship is a mobile fortress, carrying thousands of mutated warriors and weapons of mass destruction. When the Abyssal Legion arrives, there is only one outcome: annihilation. Humanity is in a desperate defense. Hundreds of outpost planets, once symbols of prosperity and expansion, are now merely floating ruins in space, silent graves of extinguished hopes. Major strongholds have fallen one after another, turning into ruins swallowed by eternal darkness. Evacuations unfolded in chaos, but in many places, it was too late. Only a small fraction of the human fleet remains. Old, weathered ships carrying exhausted souls, desperately trying to maintain the final line of defense. Humanity's last hope rests on Project Dawn, a top-secret program initiated decades before the war truly erupted. Project Dawn doesn't create ordinary soldiers, it creates Nightfall Hunters. These are super soldiers selected from a very young age, undergoing irreversible biological and technological augmentation. Their bones are reinforced with titanium alloy. Their muscles are transformed to increase strength and speed many times over. And their nervous systems are upgraded to process information at light speed. They wear complex combat armor, called Moonless Guard, which is not only protection but also an autonomous weapon system, turning them into mobile fortresses on the battlefield. Each Nightfall Hunter is a perfect fighting machine, but the price they pay is the sacrifice of almost all personal life, becoming mere instruments of war. Among the legendary Nightfall Hunters, one name is always mentioned with reverence and a hint of fear: Kaelen-7. Kaelen is not a new soldier, he is a survivor, a ghost from the most brutal wars. His face, hidden behind the heavy helmet of the latest generation Moonless Guard armor, is unknown to anyone, but the deep scars on his soul and the burden of countless battles and the loss of comrades are plainly evident. Kalen's armor, mysterious black with sharp lines, is equipped with humanity's most advanced systems. It is not just a protective layer but also a symbol of the burden he carries, the burden of hope, of revenge, and of the survival of a species. Deep down, Kalen is still a human, but he has pushed those emotions into the darkest corners of his mind, leaving only an effective fighting machine. Weariness, a longing for an end to this endless war, is the only thing that sometimes resurfaces. Accompanying Kalen is Lyra, an echo from light, an advanced artificial intelligence, integrated directly into Kalen's armor system. Lyra is not just a mindless data analyzing AI, she is sentient, with her own personality, sometimes humorous, sometimes serious. Lyra's voice, calm and clear in Kalen's ear, is a beacon of reason and sometimes the only source of encouragement in his darkest moments. She can access and analyze information at incredible speeds, control the armor's systems, and assist Kalen in every task, from combat to complex data decryption. Lyra is the only confidant Kalen still trusts, a part of his soul in the unending war. Opening scene. The alarm sirens tore through the space in the command deck of the UNSF Last Hope. The displays flickered with countless red dots, indicating that the Abyssal Legion fleet had penetrated the outer defensive line. This was the battle on Xylos, a crucial resource outpost, but also a deadly trap. The ground is falling. Report casualties on all fronts. A young officer's voice trembled over the comms. Kalen 7 stood upright in the command center, his moonless guard armor exuding a heavy aura amidst the tense atmosphere. He said nothing. Lyra had provided him with all the data. The win probability was 0.00001%. Even less. We will not retreat. A grizzled commanding officer, his face hardened by experience, said, we will buy more time for the evacuees. Kalen was assigned, along with his team, the Black Wolf Detachment, to conduct a suicide raid on a captured power plant on Xylos's surface to activate its self-destruct system, creating a temporary energy shield to cover the civilian transport ships as they escaped. The surface of Xylos was a nightmare. The sky was torn apart by lasers and horrific explosions. Skyscrapers collapsed like toy bricks. Thousands of Abyssal Legion warriors flooded every corner. Grotesque creatures with steel-hard exoskeletons, glowing red eyes, and energy weapons that emitted terrifying hisses. Kalen and the Black Wolf Detachment moved swiftly like ghosts through the chaotic battlefield. The skill of a Nightfall hunter was indisputable. Every shot from Kalen's pulse rifle found its target. Every punch crushed the enemy's armor. Lyra continuously provided data, warned of dangers, and guided him through the safest paths. Kalen, 3 hostiles at 10 o'clock. Beware of heavy artillery. Lyra's voice resonated in his ear, eerily calm amidst the chaos. Understood, Lyra, Kalen replied, his pace unwavering. But the number of enemies was too vast. One by one, the members of the Black Wolf Detachment fell. Kalen watched his last comrade, another talented Nightfall hunter, torn apart by a plasma grenade. He felt a wrench in his chest. But he had no time to mourn. The mission was paramount. Kalen, alone, advanced into the power plant. He activated the self-destruct system as planned. Blaring alarms rang out, signaling the imminent collapse. A horrifying explosion spread, obliterating everything within a radius of several kilometers. Xylos was enveloped by a massive energy shield, buying precious moments for the remaining civilian ships. Kalen was thrown far by the blast. His armor severely damaged. He felt pain, a rare sensation for a Nightfall hunter. He struggled to crawl towards a pre-prepared escape pod, each step heavy. Lyra continuously scanned for signs of life. But there was only deadly silence. No one survived. Kalen, Lyra said, her voice unusually quiet. You are the only one. Kalen did not reply. He only looked at the escape pod's screen, which displayed the image of a destroyed Xylos, a planet that had died to protect others. After miraculously surviving and being rescued by a Federation patrol ship, Kalen was brought back to the secret base on Ether Peak, where the command center of the Federation military and Project Dawn was located. He was treated and his armor repaired. But there was no time to rest. General Valerius, the head of Project Dawn, a gaunt man with eyes full of worry, summoned Kalen, Kaelen 7. Valerius said, you are the only survivor from the hell of Xylos. We have another mission for you. The top secret mission. To track a weak distress signal from an unexplored region of space at the edge of the galaxy, known as the Horizon Belt, a place where neither humanity nor the Nightfall Empire had ever set foot. This signal, though heavily distorted, carried an unusual structure, unlike any technology of humans or the Nightfall Empire. The human government believed this could be the key to turning the tide. A final hope in the war. You will go alone, Kalen, Valerius said, but not alone in terms of operations. We will provide you with an advanced stealth reconnaissance vessel and a small support team. Kalen's support team were not Nightfall hunters. It was a small group of specialists. Dr. Aris Thorne, a knowledgeable xenogeologist obsessed with ancient civilizations, Guard Raya, a seasoned marksman from the Federation Special Forces, cold and efficient, and engineer Jax, a technical and repair expert, always appearing nonchalant but talented. Their presence created a sharp contrast to Kalen. They were ordinary, vulnerable humans, bringing different perspectives to the war. The journey through the Horizon Belt was a challenge. This was a dark region of space, full of anomalies and unknown dangers. Nightfall hunters were accustomed to battlefields. But this was a new world, a land of death. During their exploration of this area, they encountered Abyssal Legion scouts who had arrived first. A tense skirmish took place on a deserted ice planet. Kalen fought effectively, using the environment to his advantage. Raya demonstrated excellent marksmanship, while Jax used high-tech devices to disrupt enemy systems. Aris Thorn, though not a warrior, unexpectedly discovered strange symbols on the rocks. Symbols he had seen in ancient legends. After a tense engagement, Kalen and his team followed the enemy scouts' traces and discovered the source of the signal. A Shadow Spire echo, a colossal, mysterious structure, drifting in deep space. It was not a planet, but an artificial structure of unbelievable scale, built from an unknown, dull black material that did not absorb light. Carrying a strange, cold energy, it stood there, an object beyond human imagination. Like a colossal eye staring into the endless void, Kalen ordered them to approach the Shadow Spire echo. The ship's bay landed on its surface, creating a slight impact, but the sound was swallowed by the terrifying silence of the structure. There was no air, no sound, only vast corridors, illuminated by faint light sources from somewhere within. As they delved deeper into the Shadow Spire echo, Kalen and Lyra began to decipher the ancient data within. Lyra, with her superior analytical abilities, connected to the structure's data network, overcoming thousands of layers of security and extinct languages. Data is being downloaded, Kalen, Lyra said, her voice filled with excitement. This is something never before known. It doesn't resemble any language we have ever recorded. They discovered that this Shadow Spire echo was one of many similar structures, created by an incredibly advanced precursor civilization that had disappeared millions of years ago. Flickering three-dimensional images appeared, recreating colossal cities, magnificent starships, and a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of existence. Lyra interpreted the ancient records, which spoke of a plague that had destroyed that civilization. Kalen, there's an entity. They called it the Devouring Blight. Lyra whispered, her voice carrying clear apprehension. It's not a weapon. It's a terrifying parasitic life form, capable of transforming and assimilating all life. It doesn't kill to destroy, but to absorb, to become everything. Fragmented images and data of the Devouring Blight appeared on Lyra's display in Kalen's armor. Grotesque. Mutated biological masses spreading like an unstoppable epidemic, transforming the infected into twisted monsters. This was not war. This was biological assimilation. As Kalen and his team were delving into the secrets of the Shadow Spire echo, the growing fear and horror of the Devouring Blight was suddenly accompanied by an alarm. Lyra detected a large fleet of the Nightfall Empire's Abyssal Legion approaching the Shadow Spire echo. They had either tracked the Nightfall Hunters or had already recognized the importance of this structure. Kalen, we have a big problem, Lyra said. The Nightfall Empire fleet is coming. A lot of them. Kalen looked at the display. Hundreds of red dots were rushing towards them, surrounding the Shadow Spire echo. Clearly, they not only wanted to destroy humanity but also wanted to gain control of or destroy this structure for a mysterious reason. Kalen 7 and his team were trapped inside the Shadow Spire echo, facing both the approaching Nightfall Empire and the first signs of the Devouring Blight's awakening within the structure itself. From the dark recesses of the Shadow Spire echo, faint, hissing sounds began to echo, along with blurry images of mutated creatures crawling out of the darkness. What have we accidentally awakened? Lyra? Kalen asked, his voice deep, a rare fear stirring within him. He looked out into the vast emptiness, where the Nightfall Empire ships were closing in, and then back at the dark corridors of the Shadow Spire echo, where a threat even more terrifying than the war he was fighting lay hidden. Lyra's screen flickered a final message. The awakening is coming. The journey to the horizon belt, where the Shadow Spire echo lay hidden, was not easy. Kalen's stealth reconnaissance vessel, the Night Hawk, though equipped with the most advanced technology, struggled with strange spatial anomalies and gravitational fields. Inside the ship's bay, the atmosphere was tense. Dr. Aris Thorn, a gaunt man with glasses perched low on his nose, was constantly glued to ancient astronomical maps on his screen. He was obsessed with lost civilizations, and this was perhaps the greatest opportunity of his life to discover them. Ancient civilizations never truly disappear, Aris once said. They merely go into hiding, waiting to be found. Guard Raya, The sharpshooter with short-cropped hair and sharp eyes always kept her energy rifle within reach. She was an expert in guerrilla tactics, having participated in many high-risk planetary assaults. Her cold efficiency contrasted sharply with the nonchalant appearance of Engineer Jax, a young man with messy hair and circuit tattoos on his arms. Jax was a technical genius, capable of repairing anything from a faulty circuit to a colossal starship engine. He constantly mumbled lines of code or tapped clatteringly on the console. But his focus never wavered. Kalen observed them from the co-pilot's seat. He was accustomed to the solitude of a nightfall hunter, and having these ordinary humans beside him was a new experience. They were weaker than him, more vulnerable, yet they carried qualities he had almost lost: curiosity, humor, and even pure fear. Lyra continuously updated the situation. Turbulence levels spiking. Kalen, we're approaching the signal source. Detecting unusual energy signatures ahead. Just minutes later, they encountered Abyssal Legion scouts. It was a small formation of 3 light patrol ships, but they possessed incredible speed and firepower. Lyra quickly switched to combat mode. Enemy locked on. Evasive maneuvers. Kalen gripped the controls. Although not a professional pilot, with Lyra's coordination, he maneuvered the Nighthawk through the laser fire like a ghost. Jax continuously interfered with the enemy's electronic systems, jamming their navigation, while Raya expertly operated the ship's external cannon, shooting down targets one by one. The engagement was swift but fierce. 2 enemy ships were destroyed, the third fled. Good job, Lyra, Kalen murmured. Check their traces. We need to know where they're going. They followed the energy trail of the remaining enemy ship, venturing deeper into the horizon belt, past colossal asteroids and eerily glowing cosmic dust clouds. Finally, they found it. It hovered in deep space. A colossal, dark structure that didn't absorb light but seemed to devour it. Not a planet, not a space station. It was a Shadow Spire echo. It stretched for hundreds of kilometers, with bizarre, asymmetrical architectural lines, yet it exuded a gloomy, ancient beauty. Its surfaces were made of a material that light could not reflect, making it look like a void in space. It stood there, an object beyond human imagination, like a colossal, bottomless eye staring into the endless void. Oh, good heavens, Aris whispered, his eyes glued to the screen. It's even larger than anything I've read in myths. A precursor construct. Kalen decided to land the Nighthawk on a flat surface of the Shadow Spire echo. The ship's bay touched down with a soft thud, but the sound seemed swallowed by the structure's terrifying stillness. There was no air, no sound, only near absolute silence, broken by the footsteps of Kalen and his team. They entered a vast corridor, illuminated by faint, greenish light sources emanating from crevices in the walls. The air inside was dry, cold, carrying a strange scent like corroded metal and ancient dust. The walls were inscribed with strange symbols that Aris immediately recognized as an extinct precursor language. Lyra, try to connect to the system, Kalen ordered. Lyra was a master of connectivity. Attempting. Kalen, the data network is very complex. There are millions of security layers, but I'm breaking through them one by one. While Lyra worked, Kalen's team began to explore. Jax pulled out a scanning device, and his screen flickered with unusual energy readings. Raya kept her weapon ready, her eyes sweeping every dark corner. There's something very ancient here, Raya whispered, and it doesn't welcome us. Aris, with ill-concealed excitement, touched an inscribed wall. Magnificent. This is the language of the architects, one of the most powerful branches of the precursors. Legends say they created worlds, moved stars. Suddenly, Lyra emitted a faint shriek. Kalen, I've connected. Data. Massive data is being downloaded. But parts of it are corrupted. Many parts are corrupted. Lyra began projecting flickering 3-dimensional images onto Kalen's vision, recreating the colossal cities of the precursors, magnificent starships, and a civilization that had reached the pinnacle of existence. Lyra interpreted the ancient records, recounting the rise and fall of this great civilization. They were the architects, Lyra said, her voice filled with awe. They created this echo, and millions of other structures throughout the galaxy. They were the protectors of life. Until something appeared. Lyra began to decrypt records of a plague that had destroyed that civilization. Frightening images began to appear, grotesque. Deformed biological masses spreading like an unstoppable epidemic. They didn't just kill, they transformed, assimilating the infected into twisted monsters. Abominable creatures beyond recognition. Kaelin, this is the devouring blight. Lyra whispered, her voice carrying a palpable sense of apprehension. It's not a weapon. It's a terrifying parasitic life form. It doesn't kill to destroy, but to absorb, to become everything. It absorbs all life, all knowledge, all consciousness, and it destroyed the precursors. Images of the devouring blight appeared on Lyra's screen in Kaelin's armor. Shapeless masses of flesh with extending tentacles, soulless eyes, and horrifying proliferation. This was not war as Kaelin knew it. This was biological assimilation. A horror beyond all comprehension. As they were immersed in the terrifying secrets of the Shadow Spire echo, the growing fear and horror of the devouring blight reached a peak when an alarm sounded. Lyra detected a large fleet of the Nightfall Empire's Abyssal Legion approaching the Shadow Spire echo. They had either tracked the Nightfall Hunters or had already recognized the importance of this structure. Kaelin, we have a big problem, Lyra said. The Nightfall Empire fleet is coming. A lot of them. Kaelin looked at the display. Hundreds of red dots were rushing towards them, encircling the Shadow Spire echo. Clearly, they not only wanted to destroy humanity but also to gain control of or destroy this structure for a mysterious reason. Perhaps the Nightfall Empire also feared the devouring blight, or they wanted to exploit it. Kaelin's team quickly moved to a defensive position. Jax set up temporary energy barriers. Raya prepared her sniper rifles. Aris, though afraid, tried to record everything he could. The first impacts resonated as Abyssal Legion assault teams began boarding the Shadow Spire echo. Nightfall Empire soldiers, in black armor and glowing eyes, flooded the corridors. The battle erupted. Kaelin, in his moonless guard armor, was a wall of steel. He gunned down enemy after enemy, using every skill he had honed. Lyra continuously warned him of dangers, analyzing enemy weaknesses, but their numbers were overwhelming. Amidst the fierce engagement, something even more terrifying began to happen. From the dark corners, from cracks in the walls, faint hissing sounds began to emanate. Blurry images of distorted creatures, shapeless masses of flesh with tentacles, crawled out of the shadows. This was the devouring blight. Not holographic images anymore, but reality. Some Nightfall Empire soldiers, and even a few of Kaelin's own, if we want to add more drama, began to be infected. They fell, their bodies convulsing, and then mutated into grotesque objects. Their soulless eyes turned towards the living. Kaelin, the devouring blight is awakening. It's spreading. We have to get out of here. Lyra's voice was filled with panic, something Kaelin had never heard from her. Kaelin looked out into the vast emptiness, where the Nightfall Empire ships were closing in. Then he turned back to look at the dark corridors of the Shadow Spire echo, where the devouring blight was rising, turning everything into a living nightmare. They were caught between two deadly pincers. What have we accidentally awakened? Lyra? Kaelin asked, his voice low, a rare fear stirring within him. He looked at the approaching monsters, then at the charging Nightfall Empire soldiers. Clearly, the threat from the devouring blight was more terrifying than any war he had ever known. Lyra's screen flickered a final message before heavy interference. The awakening is coming. There is no escape. The first impacts resonated as the Abyssal Legion's assault teams began to disembark into the Shadow Spire echo. The enormous transport ships of the Nightfall Empire landed heavily on the surface, spewing forth hundreds of soldiers in pitch-black armor, with fiery eyes and energy weapons that emitted terrifying hisses. They flooded the corridors, their heavy footsteps echoing in the silent space. Kaelin quickly directed his team to a strategic defensive position. Jax, with astonishing agility, erected temporary energy barriers from scrap shields of the Shadow Spire echo, creating a makeshift defensive line. Raya was ready, her sniper rifle locked onto weak points on the Abyssal Legion soldier's armor. Aris, though not a warrior, still tried to record everything he could with his handheld scanner, his eyes wide with fear and awe. The battle erupted. Laser beams cut through the air. Plasma explosions shook the ancient structure. Kalen, in his moonless guard armor, was an impenetrable wall of steel. He precisely shot down every enemy, using every skill honed through countless battles. Every shot from his pulse rifle found its target. Every punch from his reinforced fist crushed the enemy's armor. Lyra continuously warned him of dangers, analyzed enemy weaknesses, and guided him through optimal tactics. Kalen, 3 hostiles at 10 o'clock. Beware of heavy artillery. Lyra's voice echoed in his ear, chillingly calm amidst the chaos. Understood, Lyra, Kalen replied, his pace unwavering. But the numbers of the Abyssal Legion were overwhelming. They poured in like an endless black wave. Jax's energy barriers began to falter, and Raya had to constantly change positions to avoid being encircled. Amidst the fierce engagement, something even more terrifying began to happen. From the dark corners, from cracks in the walls, from unknown orifices, faint hissing sounds began to emanate. They were wet, disgusting sounds, like thousands of creatures crawling on a slick surface. Blurry images of distorted creatures, shapeless masses of flesh with tentacles, crawled out of the darkness of the Shadow Spire echo. This was the devouring blight. No longer holographic images, but reality, vibrant and hideous. Some Nightfall Empire soldiers, who were engaged with Kalen, suddenly collapsed, their bodies convulsed violently, their armor cracking, revealing grotesque masses of flesh growing, black tentacles reaching out. Their eyes became soulless, and they began to attack their former comrades. Kalen, the devouring blight is awakening. It's spreading. We have to get out of here. Lyra's voice was filled with panic, something Kalen had never heard from her. Lyra, a fearless AI, was also shaken by this horror. Data indicates the contagion rate is horrific. 1 individual every 0.5 seconds. A mutated devouring blight creature, once an Abyssal Legion soldier, lunged towards Jax, its tentacles extending, trying to grab him. Jax reacted quickly, firing an electrical surge from his stun gun, making it convulse and recoil. But many others were crawling out of the darkness. Jax, fall back. Raya, provide cover, Kalen shouted, knowing they couldn't face both threats at once. The group retreated in disarray through the corridors of the Shadow Spire echo. Behind them, the screams of Nightfall Empire soldiers assimilated by the devouring blight echoed, mixed with gunshots and explosions. The air became heavy with the smell of burning flesh and strange bodily fluids. Aris, did you find anything useful? Kalen asked, while continuously firing at the pursuing devouring blight creatures. Aris, his face pale with fear, clutched a small data device. Yes, a map of the emergency escape system, and a piece of data on how to seal, or at least slow down the spread of the devouring blight. He panted, it's in a central library, on the lowest level. Jax, find a way there. Raya, cover, Kalen ordered. They rushed down to the deeper levels of the Shadow Spire echo, where the darkness became denser and the traces of the devouring blight more evident. The walls were no longer pristine, but covered with slimy organic matter, glistening in their flashlight beams. In a narrow corridor, they were blocked by a group of elite Abyssal Legion soldiers. A fierce firefight broke out. Kalen fought like a storm, but the number of enemies was too large. Jax was wounded, his device whirring, and he staggered. Kalen, I can't hold them, Jax shouted. Lyra, find weaknesses, Kalen ordered, delivering a powerful punch to an enemy soldier. The ventilation shafts above, they're not reinforced, Lyra directed. Raya saw an opportunity. She immediately switched to her high-powered rifle and fired a volley of shots into the ventilation shafts above, causing a small explosion but enough to collapse the ceiling, creating an opening and crushing some enemies. This is our chance. Through there, Kalen shouted. But as they prepared to pass through, a colossal devouring blight creature, a mutated mass of flesh with dozens of glowing red eyes, burst out from a new opening. It extended its slimy tentacles towards them. Kalen, it's too big, it's going to swallow us. Lyra screamed, her voice almost out of control. Kalen made a split-second decision. Everyone go, I'll hold it off. No, Kalen, Raya shouted, we don't leave comrades behind. That's an order, Kalen roared, his voice resonating like thunder in his armor. He knew he was the only one capable of holding out long enough for the others to escape. He turned his back on his teammates, swung his pulse rifle, and unleashed a barrage of fire onto the colossal creature. The devouring blight roared a gruesome sound, its tentacles extending like scythes of death. Kalen retreated, firing and dodging, trying to buy time. He saw his team leap through the opening, Aris clutching the data device, Raya providing cover, Jax trying to drag his wounded body. Kalen, you have to retreat, Lyra pleaded, almost begging. I'll find a way, Lyra, Kalen replied, knowing it was a lie. He felt his armor being corroded by the devouring blight's fluids. The armor had been heavily damaged after the battle on Xylos, and now it was being further ravaged. He knew he couldn't survive this confrontation. Kalen poured all his remaining energy into a final attack, hoping to paralyze the creature long enough to ensure his team's escape. He activated his rifle's energy overload mode, firing an extremely powerful pulse blast into the center of the devouring blight's mass. The monster roared in pain, but it continued to advance, its tentacles seizing Kalen. In his final moments, Kalen felt the cold embrace of the devouring blight engulfing him. He closed his eyes, thinking of what he was protecting, a fragile hope for humanity. Kalen's team finally escaped the Shadow Spire Echo and reboarded the Nighthawk. Jax activated the engines. Raya looked towards the exit, where explosions and flashing lights continued. Aris clutched the data device, his face filled with anguish. Kalen. He's no longer here, Lyra whispered into the ears of the survivors, her voice filled with sorrow and emptiness. Her link with Kalen had been severed. She was an echo from light, but now, her voice of light had lost its primary inspiration. The Nighthawk rushed away from the Shadow Spire Echo just before a massive explosion tore through a part of the structure. Perhaps Kalen activated a self-destruct system, or perhaps it was a reaction of the devouring blight. The only thing they knew was that Kalen was gone. As the ship flew away from the Shadow Spire Echo, they saw the Nightfall Empire fleet plunging into the structure. But now, they faced not just a small group of Nightfall hunters. They faced another threat, far more terrifying. The awakening devouring blight. Red flashes, explosions, and desperate screams began to emanate from within the Shadow Spire Echo, proving that the devouring blight was rampaging through not only humanity but also the Nightfall Empire. Aris checked the data device he had carried. I have a partial map of other Shadow Spire Echoes, and some precursor records on how to stop the devouring blight. It's not complete, but it's hope. Lyra, now transferred to the Nighthawk's main system, her voice still trembling slightly. Yes, this data is invaluable. Kalen has bought us time. And a goal. We must find the other Shadow Spire Echoes. We must find a way to control the devouring blight before it consumes the entire galaxy. And we must find a way to defeat the Nightfall Empire. The Nighthawk plunged into the dark void, carrying the survivors and a heavy burden of sacrifice. Dawn had never arrived, only deeper darkness, and a new mission, heavier than ever before. The goal of Part 2 will be to search for other Shadow Spire Echoes and fully decipher the secrets of the precursors to find a solution for the devouring blight and how to deal with the Nightfall Empire.